So as we all know, the NBA this season is celebrating its 75th birthday, and in these 75 years, there's been a lot of generational talents. No, not generational like great players, but players who are the second generation to get drafted in the NBA. Yes, the players whose dads played in the league as well. We'll be ranking the top 5 of them along with 2 shoutouts in the end of the video. But before we begin, we need a shout out right now, and it goes to Crown for the epic video idea. He was the one who suggested me this video, and he also has a channel where he uploads NBA mixes as well, and trust me, you guys should check it out for sure, because I've been subscribed to him for a while now, and his editing is just fabulous. Link to his channel will be in the description down below, but anyways, let's start off with number 5, and here we have Domantas Sabonis. This was actually a close one between number 4, who we'll get to in a minute, but Domantas' father, Arvydas Sabonis, was basically the Jokic of his era if you didn't know already. He was a great passer for a big man and a decent shooter as well, everything that Nikola Jokic is. Overall, in my opinion, a top 100 player of all time. While his son Domantas has a long career ahead of him, I can come out and easily say that he's the better player. Arvydas was good, but Sabonis is better. There's a difference. And when we look at the achievements as well, Sabonis is a 2-time All-Star and scored at least 20 points per game in one season, which Arvydas never came close to in his NBA career. So like I said, it was a really close one, but we have Domantas at number 5 here. But now at number 4, it's Devin Booker. For some people, this might be an easy one between Booker and Sabonis, and they would have said it's easily Booker, but in my opinion, Sabonis is really underrated, so that's why I felt like it was a close race, but Booker gets the edge here for his phenomenal scoring abilities at his age. Booker, as we all know, was part of an almost finals winning team last season, which his dad, Melvin Booker, never came close to. Booker is by far the better player than his dad, who only played a combined total of 38 games in his career, spanning 2 seasons. And as for Booker, he's an All-NBA talent and also the youngest player ever to score 60 points. He scored 70 actually, so he broke the 60-point mark by a whole nother level. But with Booker, an All-NBA player already at number 4, we know number 3 is going to be an all-time great player, and it's Klay Thompson. There really isn't much to say about Klay because we all know how much of a talent he is, and the hard work he's been putting in the past 2 seasons recovering from 2 possible career-ending injuries is mind-blowing to me, and his shooting, off-ball movement, and just personality as a human being brings joy to the game. And for us viewers, if he's not your top 5 favorite player in the NBA, then I don't know what's going wrong with you. Now, Michael Thompson, Klay's well-known father, was also a really solid player in his career, but not the shooter that Klay is. He averaged about 14 points and 7 rebounds for his career, which is really solid, and also a 2-time NBA champion, but obviously not the first option. Who's the better player between the two? It's easily Klay, but Klay is not the best second-generational talent, nor the second best, because at number 2 and number 1, we have 2 top 15 players of all time, with one of them being top 5 in lots of people's lists. But before we talk about the number 1 second-generational player, at number 2, we have Stephen Curry. With Klay, we talked about the fact that he's a really good shooter, but this guy is a better shooter than him, which says a lot. Actually, I'd like to reframe. This guy is not only a better shooter, he's the best shooter of all time, which the total career 3-point makes, and the efficiency he had while doing so can tell you. Curry is much more than a shooter, and we'll talk about that. But his dad, Del Curry, was basically only a shooter, an all-time shooter in his own right. Del was the leading scorer for the Charlotte Hornets franchise before Kemba took that away, and Del was also a 6th man of the year in one season. Back to Steph and his abilities besides shooting. I think Steph is a great playmaker, a great overall scorer, a solid team defender, and a very underrated individual defender at this stage of his career. And people talk about it a lot, I know, but his gravity is the best thing about him. If he's on the court, your team always has an advantage because teams are double teaming him, and defenders just drift towards him every time the Warriors set an off screen with Curry on the ball, which leaves one shooter open at all times for the Warriors. Then it's just a matter if the shooter makes the shot or not. And with Klay back soon, the shooter most likely will be Klay, and he for sure will make the shots because 2 devastating foot injuries, which obviously was the ACL and Achilles, doesn't make Klay shooting worse. It only makes it better because the 2 years that he's had in the offseason to work and train, and even in the regular season because obviously he wasn't playing games. But anyways, we're getting off topic, but that's enough of the 2 teammates who happen to be both great shooters and second-generational players. Let's talk about the best player whose dad played in the NBA, and I think we already know who it is, and it's Kobe Bean Bryant. Kobe always just makes me sad once I talk about him now, and I'll admit, I wasn't a huge Kobe fan before he passed away, and a lot of that is because he retired before I even started playing basketball and watching basketball. So you know I've been growing up with Steph, LeBron, Durant, Harden, and these types of players, but Kobe passing away really made me think, like, why do so many people respect him suddenly after his demise? And I did a lot of research and found out this guy was an absolute beast. I see him in interviews, he talks about how hard he goes on his teammates and the fact that they're understanding of him, because we all just take greatness for granted right now until that player retires or, tragically in Kobe's case, passes away. But anyways, leaving that sad stuff aside, the Black Mamba is a top 10 player in most people's all-time list and top 5 in some people's list, including mine. And his father, Joe Bryant, wasn't a superstar or even all-star caliber player. He spent a lot of time in international leagues, mostly in Europe, and Kobe got his love of the game from his father, Joe. And that, to me, means that I think Joe Bryant was probably a very good father raising up a kid like Kobe. But that's the top 5 players who are the second generation to be drafted in the NBA. But there's 2 honorable mentions I would like to quickly mention who are not yet in the league, but most likely will make it in the next 2 years. Number 1 is Zaire Wade, son of former NBA player Dwayne Wade. Zaire is not a very high recruit, but the hype he has because of Dwayne, not to say that he's a bad player at all, man has really good potential, and that's why he's the first honorable mention. And the second one, you guessed it, is Bronny James, son of LeBron James, who's currently still playing in the NBA and might still be when Bronny gets drafted, which will be really exciting for me to watch and probably for you too. It doesn't matter if you're a LeBron fan or not, watching a father and son play in the same league, maybe even on the same teams, depending on how the draft goes out, will be so fun. That's it for the video. I'm out. Bye.